Roadshow, episode number 462. My name is John Morgan, and Cold Coffee is with me. However, we have relocated across town. Not that far. It's like, 15 minutes or something from the house. But we're not at the – well, I mean –
I was like, do I have to get gas on the way back?
I mean, obviously, when you're at the Casa Cold Coffee, the first step is just to get off the grounds. That takes a while, and I don't even know how long that takes. I mean, you got to get through the estate itself. But
once getting through the gate, you're like, come on.
Yeah. Once you get through that spacious ground, then you make your way over here to where the Durango dead ends into the desert over here at the Morgan household. So appreciate you making the trip over here. My wife is actually volunteering for the Super Bowl committee. And so because of that, I had to get home immediately after media day, and I guess, he's sitting right over there. But my kid's 11; he's about to be 12. I'm sure at some point,
yep,
you're supposed to let him just kind of, hey, he's fine on his own. He'll be there by himself. But I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not there yet.
Well, I'll let you slow play it. He's there. He's there now. But it's good. It's good. I mean, the fact that you have a career, and same with, your wife, you're able to kind of be home, which is great. That's a nice luxury. But luckily I had brothers and sisters, so like my dad always worked shift work, so there were times I get off school and I wouldn't see him till like the next day because he'd go to work at like 4 to midnight. So after school, it was like, say if I did like an activity,
right,
he was gone, and so it wasn't like I'd stay up to midnight or anything like that, but I had somebody there. But he's getting to that point, but it's good. But you have the luxury, you can be here,
for the most part,
which is nice. I mean, you're still kind of making up for years lost, time lost, or whatever. But I think, and plus at some point, you got to give your kids that leeway that they can, sneak friends or girls over when you're not here.
Hey.
So I mean, that's part of growing up. It's part of growing up.
Let's not put any ideas in his head just yet. I'm sure he's going to get to them. All right, listen, we will talk about.
I see all the ladies hanging around him. I see all the young ladies hanging around him.
He's got a little riz, as they like to say. He's got a little riz.
I have no idea. What that is.
If I didn't have a kid, I wouldn't know either.
What does that mean?
Well, that would kind of be like some swag or whatever.
Okay.
He's got some.
Is that what it is? It's short for charisma.
Short for charisma.
Kids.
They come up with this stuff, huh?
It's so ridiculous.
We're getting old.
It's the same thing when I always joke, like when people say, "Oh man, that's cap." I'm like, "What's cap mean?" It's like, "Oh, lie." I was like, "Oh, okay, so you replaced a 3-letter word with another 3-letter word. That sounds completely ridiculous." I was like, that don't make any sense. But I can see that where riz is short for charisma. I can. That
is true, right? Like if you're gonna come up with some new words, like it should always just be shorter than the other one, right? Like if it's longer or the same. Why wouldn't you just use the word that was there?
And especially if you're using a word that already has a meaning, like you're saying, like I forgot my cap at a thing. I was like, oh, you forgot your lies? No, I forgot my actual cap. It's just silly. But like riz, I can see where it's like, okay, yeah, I mean he got that.
That's actually a good one. They get some love for that one.
Even though swaggers, is another nice little replacement. Charisma is a tough one, but charisma is such a cooler sounding word.
It's a cooler sounding word.
But whatever. But that's you got the kids. So you're getting the slang and all the new terms.
I get filled in. I get to know all about it.
That was new for me. I was like, I have no idea what you're saying over there. Got that riz. I'm like, okay.
I like the fact that you're willing to admit it, not just try to play along.
Nah.
All right, we'll talk about UFC Fight Night 235. And I actually went to media day today.
I know,
bro. I figured. Okay, so listen. I got there and I was like, man, I don't feel like I haven't done this in a while, and I haven't really been paying attention. I mean, I knew like January. I didn't go to the Toronto show. There were only 2 shows. One was there's only 2 shows. One was in Vegas, one was in Toronto. I didn't make the trip to Toronto. There was one here, and I can't remember what happened. There was some reason I couldn't do the media day for that one. But then I started looking back, and as far if I trust my iCal, which I try to put everything into my calendar. That's kind of what I use to just keep everything organized. I think it was November. The November 8th was the last media day I was there. Bro, that's like 2+ months without a media day. That's
so you missed multiple UFC.
I didn't realize it was that long.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was that long. So we'll talk about that in a minute. It felt good to be. Hey, it felt good to be back. I'll be honest. I enjoyed it.
And don't be remiss by not telling people about how you got welcomed back by staff by managers. They came in there like, John's back. Look at this. Look like, oh,
I was like,
back.
damn, I guess it has been a while, huh?
I thought that was pretty fun when they were like, whoa, Mr. Morgan's back. I was like, yep, see?
I'm still around. Listen, had a busy week last week. It was, technically an off week for the UFC, but we stayed busy. We had the debut CFFC Muay Thai event. If you haven't had a chance to check that out, please do. It was on our OnlyFans account, but I just noticed actually they're all being posted to the CFFC YouTube channel right now as well. They're actually, as we sit down to record this, they're all kind of being premiered like one by one. So if you want to check out the CFFC Muay Thai product, definitely do that. It was a fun show. It was a good show. I enjoyed it. It was the start. I think we're gonna do like 5 this year. So we've already started planning some more of them. We're gonna make some tweaks. We talked about what we liked and what we didn't like, and we're gonna make some changes and trying to get it better. But super cool debut, and you can watch the replays of that now. I gotta tell you, bro. So we did the show on Wednesday, as usual, last week when I was down in Miami. So I made 2 trips to the East Coast last week, right? Luckily, dude, travel to me has been pretty good. Even though I've been, staying pretty busy, like I haven't had really any issues, nothing crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And I try not to complain or anything like that. But I had one, and this is crazy. And I wanted to tell you about it because in all the flying I've ever done, I've never had this happen to me before.
Oh.
And I want to ask if you've ever heard this, right? So this was the day after we sat down to record the show last week from Miami. I was flying back. I had a really tight connection. I was flying from Miami back to Vegas. I had a really tight connection in Dallas, right? So I get there in the morning.
What are you saying, like 45 minutes?
Yeah, about 45 minutes.
Yeah. That's tight for
about
Dallas.
45. Now, we'll get to there. I got incredibly lucky because as the plane landed, and if anybody that knows Dallas, you're right, Dallas is massive. You can get around it pretty quick, but it's just huge.
You have to transit. Even if you're in the same terminal, it takes some walking time.
Yeah, well, I got incredibly lucky because one of the flights, I can't remember if it was my arriving or my departing, got moved, but we flew into A20 and we're flying out of A24.
Oh.
4 gates apart.
That's ridiculous.
Ridiculous, right?
That's ridiculous.
So anyway, all right, so we're in Miami. We board the plane. We're sitting there for a little while. Next thing you know, we're sitting on the ground a while. That happens, right? I mean, it's kind of normal. But after about half an hour of sitting on the ground, and I knew it was pretty tight, but I wasn't sweating it because listen, man, nowadays they build in extra time. You know what I mean? Like, because they want those on-time percentages.
Yeah.
So there's always extra time there. You're gonna make it up. You're gonna be fine. But we get on there, and the pilot comes on and he says, "Guys, just to update you on what's going on here." He was like, "Air traffic control has us taking a northern route." Where I believe there's going to be some weather, and I don't believe it's necessary for us to fly that way. He was like, I think this aircraft should be taking a southern route and not dealing with that weather whatsoever. And I'll never forget this because he said, so we're having a you-know-what match to figure out. And I'm like, what? You're arguing with air traffic control over which way we should get to Dallas? I was like, all right. And then we sit there like another 15 or 20 minutes, and he comes back on, and he's like, hey, well, just to update you, he was like, I did my best, but air traffic control won, so we're going to be taking that northern route. They are re-downloading the data into the system now for our flight path, and it'll be just a few minutes, and we'll get off the ground. And so we end up being like an hour late, just grounded, because the pilot is arguing with air traffic control over which way we should fly the plane.
Yeah.
And on the one hand, let me say that I guess I commend the pilot because, our safety, I guess, is his primary concern. And if he wants to avoid some weather, then I should commend him for that. But on the other hand, isn't that air traffic control's job? To tell you, bro, this path is just fine for you. It's all good.
Yeah.
So anyway, that happens. We do take off. There are so many people late. Dude, as soon as so they did come on and make the announcement. You've heard the announcement. Guys, we've got a lot of people with tight connections. If you don't have a tight connection,
that never works.
Never works. But
because at that point, everybody
gets up because they're like, this is going to be a rush.
They're like, we're all late.
Well, and I think everybody wasn't because, dude, we landed. And, you're supposed to, wait for the little ding. So nobody waited. As soon as the plane pulled up to the gate. Now, nobody got off while it was taxiing. But
Yeah.
I mean, the second it stopped, like 2/3 of the plane jumped up, and everybody's like, "I leave in 10 minutes. I leave in 5 minutes." So now me, I'm like, I leave in 10 minutes. By the time I landed, I had 10 minutes, and I was like, the door might be closed already, but I only need to go 4 gates over. So I sprinted, I ran, I made it over pretty quick. They actually pulled back 5 minutes early, so I did miss it, and it wasn't the biggest deal.
That sucks.
Yeah, I missed it by. I mean, I could see the plane literally like taxiing backwards from the gate, and so literally it only delayed me like 2.5 hours, like because Miami to or from Dallas to Vegas, pretty common, common route. So it only delayed me about 2.5 hours, which is not a huge deal, and I'm not complaining that much, but I am complaining because. Why are you arguing with air?
Yeah.
I've never heard that, and I guess
that's a new one for me.
I've never heard that.
I wonder though. I mean, because usually the pilots and most of that stuff, those flight routes are already done beforehand.
Yes.
But I'm just wondering if the pilot's saying like my route's already been done, and now you're coming at me with a new adjusted route. For the fact of him saying that it had to be downloaded. So that's or whatever. So they had to update what was already plugged in. So that sounds like something was change after it was initially set up.
Yeah.
So that could have been the fact that a change came and the tower's like, well, shit's happening. We gotta send you this route instead of your initial whatever. And then he probably came back and said, well, if you're gonna change it, how about we change it and keep it south? And then them going back and forth or whatever. But you're right. I mean, like the pilot, I appreciate what he was trying to do. But you're right. I mean, the tower sees all the different routes going in there. But, I mean, he probably, you never know. I mean, I know some people that have done the air traffic control, and they might not be the sharpest birds. So you never know. So I wonder if maybe his experience was like, like maybe they're willing to take some input if you give the right input where the guy's like, okay, well, I just made a decision, this is this. Or maybe if you speak the right language, you're like, okay, you're right. In this instance, you're probably right. But if it was a weather one, I'm sure the air traffic controller was juggling a bunch of different shit and was probably over it at that point. But it sucks that it took that long for one to finally just say, okay, we can't come to agreement. We'll go to your choice or whatever. But
unbelievable. It was a new one to me. I guess
Yeah, I've never heard. And if anything like that happened before, you certainly wouldn't hear the. I've never heard a flight or somebody representing the airline saying that they're arguing with like somebody else at the airport. That's either they'll make up, say there's maintenance thing or there's weather or there's something. Maybe just say, all right, well, we're being held back because of the weather on location, so they're not letting us take off. We don't care about whether you're in the northern route or the southern route. We just want to get to the destination.
Get me there.
So if you tell us, hey, sorry, we got to hang here, I'm going to be like, okay, it's the weather. It happens all the time. We get it. But to hear you say, yeah, I'm arguing with them, this and that, because then now, since he lost, they look like he caused the problem.
Yeah.
And it might not have been that case. Who knows?
I guess I appreciate his commitment to safety, and I guess I appreciate his honesty as well, because it'd be real easy to say,
and that's like another thing too.
But it still pissed me off.
Yeah, I bet. And it's so funny because most people that travel a lot that like to throw it in your face sometimes probably would have made a post about it and just be like, oh, my travel life is so hard. I got held back and then this and And but you're right. At least it was on the way back. It's one thing when you're going to, say, a work or something on the ground when you're trying to get there. At least you're just getting home, and it's not it's things are taken care of. It's not like you have somebody waiting for you or like, my dog's been locked up for 12 hours. I need to get home type thing,
Just want to come home and hang out with the family, you know what I mean?
But no, I'm telling you, man, you're traveling more than you were ever before.
It's crazy. I am. Yeah. It's just shorter trips, but I am. I actually leave tomorrow to go to North Carolina. We've got the final CFFC Match Day event of the year. So I'll actually be on the mic for this one. It is Campbell versus Appalachian State. Shane Sparks. I'm not sure what the overlap was, but our normal commentator was not able to be there, unfortunately, which sucks because he's really good. Like
he's got to fill in for Punk since Punk got it. Since Punk had to make his exit. I feel bad for that dude.
I feel so bad for Punk, man.
Yeah.
For him, I assume most people have seen this, and maybe you haven't, because some people don't watch wrestling at all. But CM Punk, who just got back to WWE
from an arm injury,
and now in his debut match back. Well, take that back. His debut televised match back. He did a couple of dark matches.
Oh, that's right. Where he's done somewhere they haven't did, and I know he's done what do you call it?
Appearances. Yeah. But he actually did 2 matches that were like dark matches. He did the Forum in
Was that
LA.
right around like New Year's Eve or Christmas or something like that? Okay, yeah.
He did
so I remember I tried finding it on TV because you were putting it out that he was doing something. I tried finding it and I couldn't find it.
Yeah. So supposedly somebody's telling me that they're on YouTube because obviously this is in the era of like
after the fact?
No, but not like the production. Like there was no production version of it. It was just like a house show or whatever. So
gotcha.
he did a couple, but like one was in LA, which he is out there a lot of the time now because he has a house out there, and then one was Madison Square Garden. He was like, I think Madison. I think it was
that sounds right. Because I think that was the dark one. I remember I tried tuning into it, and I couldn't
Madison
believe
Square Garden would be dark, right? That is weird.
I don't
understand. But anyway, so his first one back. I didn't get to watch it live. I was like kind of bummed because we were doing Muay Thai at the time.
Yeah.
And was hoping to watch it, and I was like, I can't watch. And then started getting reports that he lost, and then and I was like, oh well, I mean, okay, yeah. And then reports that he got hurt, and then it turns out
a serious injury. And it's the same arm, right?
I think it's the other.
Is it the other? I heard it
was it the same arm?
Could be. I heard somebody that was saying it was like the same arm, and that's why it was just like. That's bad. I mean, because it'd be one thing. Not that you want to have it on the same, the other arm and have to go through it again, but to have it happen on the same arm, then you really start thinking like, okay, can I do this again? Can I go through that long recovery just to go back into it and then injured at the same one? But then I saw, he's such a showman, and like I love as much as people will shit on whatever the sport or whatever. So I saw some little bit where the guy I think that's replacing him or one of the other guys I've seen him like argue with. I don't know if this was the guy that he fought in the match. Afterwards, he had his arm like all bandaged up or whatever, and like so he was doing another appearance, and him and the guy. I didn't watch the full thing. I just saw the clip, but so they end up getting back into it. He slams Punk down and like stomps on it. I was like, these guys are nuts. Like, granted, they know what they're doing. They can do it like and not hurt each other, but still, the fact is like, bro, you just hurt your arm. But it's like that's the showman side, like the show must go on part, or something. But I feel good for the dude because he worked so hard to get back into it, and then to have an injury like this, and then to really start wondering like, am I going to be able to do this again?
Yep.
But then part of their whole nature of the show is then like. This guy that stomped on him was been clowning on it on social media. Had like this meme where it was like Punk's return or Punk returning back and it had like a graveyard and it was like 2024 to 2024 or something like that. And it was like his CM Punk's career or something. I was like, brutal. And I know and they're probably boys,
right?
They're probably just like doing it, to just sell the fight or whatever.
But
still gotta be like,
bro,
oh, you got me good on that one. You got me good because regardless of playing along with it or whatever, it's gotta sting, man. I'm sure that's had to be a huge letdown from him.
I reached out to him, and it seemed like he was in good spirits because I thought the same thing. Is it like how bummed do you have to be? I was like, I guess the bright side is you already know what the rehab is, so he was like, "You jackass."
Call up the thing. Yeah, hey, it's me again.
I remember the schedule. We'll do the same thing again. So yeah, I'm bummed for him. I think he's gonna miss. So he wasn't ever gonna do Muay Thai. Obviously, he was competing that night or performing, whatever the correct terminology would be, but. I think he was supposed to because we're doing the last wrestling Friday, and then we're actually doing MMA again next week in Philadelphia, 2300 Arena, and he was supposed to be there, and I think he's
not going to do that one.
No, I think he's got to go get surgery or something.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
But the last time he got hurt, it meant we got him for every show because like they didn't need him.
I remember he made a pretty quick return, but yeah, I mean he can't dilly down on that surgery. He's got to get
it done. The faster you get it done,
the faster you get it done.
Back.
Yeah, fudge.
I know.
I know he likes Philly, right?
Yeah.
For some reason, I feel like I don't think he reps Philly, but I know he likes Philly.
Yeah, we spend a lot of time out there, and obviously, like Paul Felder's out there, and he likes Paul a lot and stuff. So, yeah, bummed for him, man. I was bummed. I was so excited to see him back in WWE, and So shout out to CM Punk. Get well soon. just got Eli his Roots of Fight gear, man. You know, he just came out with a new partnership with Roots of Fight.
Oh, did Punk did?
Yeah, Punk has a partnership
sweet.
with Roots of Fight. He has some cool gear, and I just gotten some gear for Eli. And
well, you can still rep the gear. I mean, I hope that he can, you know, regardless of whatever he decides. I mean, you would think that they should keep him around for something, even if it's just commentating, you know, whatever. And then he could always have those storylines where, you know, you used to see guys interact a lot more with, like, the talent guys. And even with him, I think sometimes maybe that was a different organization where the guys calling the show were always, like, sort of there and then were able to be brought into the broadcast, you know. So you could always see him, you know, being there and being able to kind of maybe just tease guys and maybe do something. But
he's so good on the mic. He's you know what I mean?
Killer on the mic.
So good on the mic, and he's so you know, I mean, he just gets the business, man. He gets the business. So, and it's cool to see, like,
and the fans love that.
Fans love it.
It's pretty ridiculous.
And it's cool to see too, like when he went back over to WWE, all the respect from like some of the athletes over there. You know, obviously he'd been on our roster, but to come over there and like these young athletes, and they're like, you know, loving, you know, having him around and seeking his advice and stuff like that, man. It's pretty cool. I wish I could remember her name. There's a girl that is on the WWE roster that there's like a picture of them together when she was a kid.
Oh,
meeting CM Punk and and then they kind of recreated the picture with them together.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so like she was just like a little kid being a fan and wanting to meet CM Punk, and now they're on the roster together. So. Pretty cool. So shout out to Punk. Hopefully he gets well soon.
Yeah, quick recovery.
How about yourself? Did you get a little time off? What'd you do? I stayed crazy busy, but you get a little downtime with the non-UFC week.
Yeah, for the most part, just downtime. You know, but you know, gym time never cuts off. You know, in fact, we got the squat rack set up.
Yeah, the squat rack
set up, and it's funny. I love the fact that Oscar's so close. So yeah, man, we've been doing it like. We've been getting together a lot of times, like anywhere from like 5 to 6 days a week on some weeks or something. But yeah, we were doing did squats yesterday. We did chest stuff, and then the day before that was like squats and stuff like that. So yeah, we've been doing it like 3 squats like 3 days a week or something like that. So I'm trying to get him to do some of the other little stuff, but I love it because it's also got the pull-up bar and it's got the dip bars and stuff, and I got some bands to like help me do it because I can't fucking do a pull-up on my own without like a resistance band to sort of help. But yeah, man, it's been fun. So yeah, I mean, outside of that, it's just been just hanging around the house, working out, trying to be good.
Just mapping out all your Super Bowl stuff, huh?
Well,
big NFL guy over here.
I'm just here.
Remember, as Dana White once said, you know what I mean? You got your NFL reporters up here. Imagine the right hand is up high if you're listening to this in audio version, and then you got your NBA reporters.
Yeah.
Then you got and my hand is going down the
and
scale
the
a little bit. MLB, and he was like, and then down here you got your MMA reporters. Now my hand is as low as it can possibly go. So you have elevated yourself from the lowness of the MMA reporters that we are to the height of covering the NFL. You don't even mess around. You're like, man, you know, I'm thinking about jumping in the NFL. Why not just go to a Super Bowl? How about that?
Right. I could just start at the Raiders game, but I was like, how about we just go, you know, why not just go to the Super Bowl coverage? So, yes. So, next week I'll be doing a Radio Row and doing some random, like, man on the street stuff with the USA Today staff. They reached out. I heard there were some rumblings like they were going to maybe reach out and see what my schedule was like. And I was like, dude, I'm more than happy. When I first started and helped out, I remember I helped out with some like NBA like spring game stuff. I think there was a random like NFL thing or whatever. I've done the draft or whatever when that came out here. But yeah, so planning on some of that stuff. So yeah, next week's gonna be crazy. So I'll be doing the UFC event as well as the Super Bowl. But I'll be doing Super Bowl stuff Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at MMA thing, Saturday MMA thing. Unfortunately, I haven't heard from Taylor to see if she's going to invite me to be there on Sunday.
Tay might have you up in the box.
You know, it's funny because when I was joking with USA Today and they were talking about, oh, we'll have you either go do this, and I was like, you know, hey, if Taylor needs something, they're like, oh, would you volunteer for that? If we need Taylor, I was like, yeah, I'll be Team Tay follower. I'll follow her around.
You'd be the coolest person in the world to my wife.
Dude, I'm telling you, like, I think my nieces and nephews would be like, yo, hey. So it'll be interesting. I know she's got some crazy tour stuff, like good for her, like being able to tour. She's like doing a show in Japan, like the day before, then coming back, going to the event, and then going back over there for a tour or something.
I hope there were still some aisle seats available for her. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right?
Like she booked it late, so I'm not sure what kind of seating is going to be there for her.
You know, I hope there's only so many first class seats, and if not, the middle seats back in the back of economy. I just don't know. It might get too crowded with her bags, at that point.
I gotta think, dude. So I was actually so I think if I remember right, she's going from it's either Japan. I think it's Australia to Vegas to Japan, or it's Japan to Vegas to Australia. Which, by the way, I have made that trip before.
Yeah,
years and years and years ago. It was actually when USA Today was sold, or when MMA Junkie was sold to USA Today, and we had to put a freeze on booking any travel. And when it was time to book the travel, the only flights I could get to go to events in consecutive weeks was going back to LA, which was insane. So I've done that trip. I did do it in economy but I did get an aisle seat. But I was thinking about that, so obviously she's gonna fly private. I wonder what there'll definitely be a bed that she can sleep and maybe I'm thinking
if it's like
IV
her own
bags,
if it's her own rented
you know what I mean,
bird, I'm sure there's got to be a bed or a suite,
of
or
course,
something.
and there's
in
gonna
there.
be a staff.
But she'll have her
tending
people too.
to
She'll
her.
have her people there with her.
Oh yeah,
as well.
you gotta have the people on there.
Can
you imagine that though? I mean, it's not just because you're right. It's not even gonna be just jumping on a private plane. It's going to be there's people tending to her. Everybody has to be quiet on the whole flight.
Well, you never know.
She's got to rest.
Well, she's got to rest.
And they're gonna give her an IV bag.
But you know she's going to have her girls with her, and they're probably just going to be, I would imagine, after a show, and then knowing that she can just party for a little bit, sleep, because it's a long flight.
Right. Get
some sleep, have some fun with her girlfriends, and then kick it in Vegas. She might just go hard. She might just come in. We might have rare form Taylor Swift. And I'm here for it, man. I love it. It's funny. I think the Chiefs are a good team. I think the 49ers is a good team. If I had to pick the two, I love the fucking Kelsey story. I love Patrick Mahomes. I think it's badass. I don't have much about the Niners call me Team Tay-Tay on this one. I'll go for the guys in red, even though they're both in red. I love that story. I know a lot of people I almost feel like they're getting, it's the Chiefs again. It's Mahomes again. They're getting that little tedious So I can see where a lot of people are
Lions Ravens would have been cool just to
because it's so different. You would never think. I did feel bad for the Lions fans, man. They've been working so hard. The Ravens, but Detroit, that was the team. That was the one that I was holy cow, if they make it, what a story that is. That those fans have been dying for it. It's one thing when you see fans really, really take it hard. That one after they lost, when they were painting some of the crowd shots, dudes, grown-ass men weeping in the stands. And I was like, holy cow, and you just felt like all of Detroit was probably weeping silently, but there were a few that took it hard, and I was like, man, I can see that.
Yeah, they've been a long punished franchise.
A long one. And so in this one, I feel almost so I could see where the Niners people are like, dude, it's been forever. I don't know if they've been there before. I'm sure they probably have. Oh, yeah, they've been there plenty of times. Now I'm thinking about who's been at the Niners, but it's been a while. But, yeah, I have no problem just saying, I give two shits about these teams, so I'm going to root for Taylor's team. I'm rooting for Taylor's team in this one. So it'd be interesting. But, I don't envision my Super Bowl coverage is going to see Taylor anywhere around. I think they're going to keep her away from the media.
Oh, there's no way, yeah.
So it'd be pretty funny. But, it's funny because you see
she
people
just popped through Radio Row.
Way too many grown-ass men are way too triggered by the fact that during these games they show Taylor.
Just one of the biggest stars on the planet, dude.
It's crazy. They're going to show fans, who cares they go back. I've seen them go to a cute girl sitting in the stands multiple times. So the fact that this one is completely winning at life and just crushing it.
It is weird how many people get
mad,
offended by it.
Grown-ass men completely upset about it. I'm like, what is wrong with you? You're that upset because they're showing Taylor Swift, one of the biggest stars in the world, at her boyfriend's game. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense, bro. Just relax,
Chill out. Dude, my wife is hardcore Swiftie. She could break down everything about it. But I will say I'm certainly not following the saga quite that close. But obviously I hear that. But
is it a saga? What you mean? The fact just they're dating?
Just the relationship and all that or whatever. But I did like the shirtless Jason Kelsey.
That was awesome.
Chugging beer, and then I guess like they did. I think. I mean, from what I understand, like they do a podcast that's like does incredible numbers. Where like I think it's one of the top podcasts in the world now.
Both guys seem like they have a really, really good sense of humor, and like they do well.
Well, did you see this clip where Jason Kelsey was? I guess that was the first time he had met Taylor, and he's like shirtless, chugging beer, and he's like, "Hey, he's like, there's nowhere to go but up from there." You know, she's like, "Once you've seen this side of me, like, hey, now you know."
That's probably because like there was a point where I saw in that clip where he was taking some pictures, you know, picking up, and he was all like bare chested, probably still had beer on him, and then there were some people he was like, they were like, "Can get Taylor," and he was just like, so he go to the window, he's like, "Taylor, you know, come." Stand here and take a picture so I can see where she's like, "Yo, you're not supposed to do that," you know. Where I'm sure, like, as more times go, that he'd get the gist of it, you know. But I just thought it was kind of funny because I saw that and like, he seems like both the brothers seem like very, very down to earth, and especially him. He was just like, he was so happy for his brother. It was like, how can you not be happy for the family at that moment? But it was just, I just got a real kick out of that because like, obviously somebody didn't like sort of like, hey, whatever you do, the fans are going to ask to see Taylor. Just kind of leave her alone.
Ignore it, right? Just ignore it.
And he's like, hey, come
over here, get a picture. That's good. That sounds like some dumb thing I would do. You know what I mean? Like, that's
pretty awesome. So yeah, I mean, boy, this town, and it's crazy because like, as much as, I mean, there were people bitching about how they're setting up in front of the fountain, so you can't see the fountains, but the impact. F1 is the feel of town from F1 coming in town and the feel of town from the Super Bowl coming into town is very, very different. I have not heard of anybody that is upset about the Super Bowl coming. I'm excited. I know most people I've interacted with are just excited for the positive influence that it's felt. You know, I'm sure there's going to be people griping about something. I'm sure after the fact we're going to hear about something that wasn't handled right in order to make it happen. Those things happen to something this big. But I'm stoked, man. You know, my family's been joking about like, hey, have you found us tickets yet? And I'm like, yeah, you gonna shell out $10,000? I was like, well, we can find you tickets.
Well, yeah, if you got $10,000 a seat, we got you.
It's ridiculous, you know, the price of the stuff. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy to see it come in town. I'm happy to.
And you know, we're in the rotation now. You know, we're every 5 years or something now.
Dude, I mean, like right after they got Allegiant done, boom, we were gonna have the draft like right away. But if it wasn't for was it COVID that upset it or whatever, like shit would have already been happening. So I love the fact that the NFL got over the whole, you know, we don't want to be associated with Vegas because of gambling and blah blah blah, and they finally got over that hump, and now you're absolutely right. I feel like we're now in the rotation. Like
100%.
Why not? Like I think I want to say Fight Night. Yeah, and at night when they're shooting some of that stuff, some of the backdrop stuff in the background, it's going to look so cool. And I mean, yeah, I mean people are coming out early to enjoy the town, go to the Super Bowl festivities and some of the other stuff during the week, kicking it in Vegas, topping it off with a big event on Sunday, and then taking the ass on home, you know? What a cool spot to go. I mean, and the weather's good. Well, I will say, next week there's supposed to be...
We didn't give our weather update.
Possible rain for like a few of the days.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was going to say...
Granted, the shit comes and goes, but,
I know
but yes, let's give them the weather window.
I know people tune in to get the weather update from
Here's your Vegas weather.
It has been 70 degrees in January,
we
like
are
every
in
day.
Spring.
Oh,
I love it. Tomorrow is supposed to drop back down. I think today was the last day. I think tomorrow it starts. And I say drop because the people that are actually still experiencing cold shit, it's going to drop back down into the 50s. I think is the highs of the 50s. So I mean, we might get the lows in the 40s or whatever.
By next Super Bowl weekend, it's going to be like in the 40s. So I mean, still not crazy though.
Which is nothing. I mean, like 40s out here is different than 40s in a place with like a lot of when you have a lot of precipitation in the air.
Something like
it makes it feel colder than like here, I believe. So. No, like our 40s feel good, but yeah, this past few days is absolutely ridiculous. I didn't look at the weather one of the days, and I was like, I'm going to go out and walk, so I put my sweats on. I grabbed like a sweatshirt, and I walked out the front door. I was like, oh, hell no. I was like, let me go back inside here and switch this out. It felt so good. So, yeah, it's going to drop back down, but it's been fantastic. But, yeah, next week, out of the very few days of rain that we get here, supposedly during a Super Bowl week, we're supposed to get some rain.
Boo.
Yeah,
well, sorry, folks, you missed it. You're off by a week.
Off by a week.
All right, UFC Fight Night 235 is taking place this weekend. You and I will both be there. I'm going to fly to North Carolina for CFFC Match. I'm going to fly back on Saturday, so I'll miss the weigh-ins on Friday, but I will be here on Saturday. I basically come straight from the airport to the event. I think, listen, if we're being honest, I think everybody kind of went into today not really looking incredibly forward to the media day, if I'm just being honest. And for a number of reasons. I mean, number one, the card isn't the greatest on paper. A meaningful main event in the middleweight division with Roma Delite versus Nasruddin Imavov. And a good fight at lightweight. The co-main event, I think, is one that a lot of people are excited about. Renato Moicano versus Drew Dober. I like the welterweight clash between Randy Brown and Muslim Salikov as well. That should be bang. So I think the top three fights are all meaningful. Natalie Silva, Viviana Araújo. Araújo kind of slows things down sometimes, so we'll see how things play out in the match. But Natalia Silva, is 4-0 in the UFC. She seems like one to watch. But anyway, so I think everybody kind of came into the day saying, all right, whatever. A lot of foreign speakers, not a lot of big matchups. And again, I always like to preface this or add the caveat. When I say foreign speakers, it's not that, again, everybody needs to speak English. No, it's just the interviews aren't quite as compelling when they go through a translator.
Twice as long. I mean, like you have to wait for the translation, so it's sometimes picking up on that moment. Once you hear something, it kind of loses that moment a little bit. But I will say too, plus part of me going into this, and I know we kind of joked in beforehand, this is like the first of like the next 11, 12, whatever, 13, 14 weeks. This is the start of the run, so everybody was just like, man, the break's over. Here we go
January
back at it.
Was easy.
So January was like just a blessing. It was like, oh my God, this is incredible. We get like weeks off.
And let's be honest. So it's the start of this long stretch. And by the way, in that stretch is included UFC 298, UFC 299, and UFC 300, which are spectacular cards. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So those are the ones that we got our eyeballs on, and we're just like, whoo, can't wait for that.
Well, I'm sure we're getting to it, and we'll get it as it gets closer. But you're talking about these spectacular cards, so we're still waiting to see what's going to be at the top of the bill at 300.
Well, it has to be Conor, right? What else? What other rabbit can you pull out of a hat right now that ends up being a UFC 300 headline? It's got to be Conor, right?
I mean, that would be up there. I mean, a lot of people said, Dricus and Izzy would be another one they want to possibly see. But I mean, because it's got to be a title fight. It's got to be something.
Fight. Unless it's Conor. It doesn't have to be a title fight. If it's Conor, Conor's...
Even Jones and Stipe doesn't even sound that great. But I mean, people want to see Jones fight. But I mean, I think if you saw Jones come back, if Jones and the right opponent, but it seems like Jones and Stipe are set on fighting each other. But how could you not? If you put that on the card, you have to make that the main event. But it just doesn't. It doesn't carry as much oomph as like a return of Conor. Would I like it more than maybe the GDP and Izzy? I think possibly. But I think the heat that you're going to get from that fight week is going to be could be ridiculous.
Oh my God, it'll be insane.
It could be either way. I mean, I did think Izzy sort of took a nice high road after the fact and congratulated him, and said the right things. I was like, okay, cool. Doesn't mean there's going to be like that on fight week or whatever. But I could see that fight possibly. But I mean, the Conor one would be good. But I mean, I don't understand why we wouldn't have already known about it by now. What are we waiting for? There's nothing that's barring it outside of anything. There's no injury, there's no whatever. It seems to fit the timeline of doing the 6 months or whatever. Everything's sort of in line. So, is it the matter? I know a lot of people said possibly Conor. Conor was the other day was I think it'd be great to round out 300 or put me on that. And I've heard people say, I want to say it was Mike Bond or some of the other guys chatting on this week, Spinning Back Click. Conor doesn't like to share points. And if you have a bunch of other you have other champions on it, you're sharing points, And if he's coming in feeling like he's the complete A side, I could see where there's a possible argument where the UFC's like, okay, if we can't remove somebody if it comes to the point, he might be asking for a certain dollar amount to give him what his normal point take-in would be.
Hold on, but let me say, Conor isn't sharing points with anybody. His points are guaranteed.
Right.
So the UFC might not want because he takes such a significant portion.
Yeah.
So the UFC doesn't want Conor and other people.
That's
true because
right.
and that's why you've seen it. That's why Conor
who knows
gets
what his
away.
amount is.
He takes a bigger chunk than anybody else. So you're right.
You start adding all
more,
those chunks in there.
It's a lot. Yeah. Just to be clear, because I want to make sure people realize it's not that there's a pool that Conor would have to split with other people.
Right.
So, but it would take away from the UFC's profits. So,
100%.
So you're right about that. I don't know. You got to think it's got to be. I mean, they got to get that thing announced quickly, man.
It's got to be.
It's got to be this week.
But I mean, what's crazy now is like people, even with what's been listed, people are like, "This sucks." A lot of people are saying like, you've been telling us, this card was going to be the end all be all, and a lot of people seem to be shitting on it. And I'm just wondering if the Conor fight gets booked, does that fix everything? Would that fix it for the people that are bitching? It's got to be, right?
Has to. Dude, anybody.
Does it matter who he's fighting to make it?
Let me just go ahead and use this segue.
Yeah.
Speaking of shitting on, I know a lot of people with the Vince McMahon. Oh no!
I didn't go there, but yeah, you brought me right there.
But it was
I'm
funny.
Here for it.
It was funny because I know a lot of people were speculating that Brock Lesnar might be on the card. I never thought that was a realistic possibility under any stretch of the imagination. But people. That's what I think the problem was. Is that I think people were thinking too fantasy style with this card.
But did Dana set that up though?
Probably because of what he said. Because
Dana's
the card is. Dude, you can't tell me this card.
Yeah.
Zhang Weili Yan Xiaonan is a great fight. I understand not a main event. It's
shit
a
on that
great
one.
fight.
I think it's
fight.
An absolute incredible
It's the fight. They have history with each other. It's the all Chinese thing. It would be cool. I actually, I think it's a great fight. Justin Gaethje versus Max Holloway. Sit down. If you don't like that fight, you don't like MMA. Let's get out of here. Charles Oliveira, Armin Sarukin, great fight. Yuri Prochazka, Alexander Rakic, a great fight. Calvin Kattar, Aljamain Sterling, super intriguing with the former champ moving up. Bo Nickel versus Cody Brundage. I know a lot of people think that's a Bo Nickel squash match, but you're seeing Bo Nickel in there. Obviously, Cody Brundage doesn't feel that way. Davison Figueiredo versus Cody Garbrandt. That is awesome. The addition of Holly Holm versus Kayla Harrison. Come on. I love that fight. Sadiq Youssef, Diego Lopez. Come on. Jessica Andrade, Marina Rodriguez. That's a fun fight. Bobby Green, Jim Miller. Come on, man. I mean,
and then the rumor of Leon Edwards and Bilal Muhammad.
And Leon Edwards, Bilal Muhammad. Oh, and yeah.
Now, what are you thinking? Like, so say that is on there as well. That's 12 fights.
Right.
I'm thinking 300 could still round out to 14 or 15 fights.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if they add one more title fight, that's 13, and then like who they? I mean, well, there's no guarantee they're going to do two more. But for me, the way that this card has been feeling out, like, and as big as they made it feel, I felt like it was going to be bigger in terms of numbers as well, like the amount of fights.
Right.
Like you can't just do a 12 fight card and be like, there you go, guys. That's that big event we were talking about. Like they're going to go big. And I wonder if they can't get the Conor one, is it a matter of still stacking like 2 or 3 more fights and then Dana saying, look, see, it's the biggest pay-per-view we put on in terms of like event-wise that we've done for whatever. But you start getting a bunch of championship fights, a bunch of 5-round fights, that makes that end of the night go really, really long.
It does.
And we already got, well, if the Edwards Muhammad's on there, just that, BMF, and Yan and Zhang fight, that's 3 5-round fights right there. And then
I'm sure Conor's going to, if Conor wasn't there, I'm sure he'd say, I want it to be 5 rounds.
5
I
rounds.
don't want 3 rounds. I wonder, too, so Dana said, like, we're building a card like we've never built before.
Yeah.
I did wonder if, like, maybe there was a situation where, like, well, Zhang Weili and Yan Xiaonan is actually, like, on the prelims somewhere so that it airs in a better time.
Oh, but that's real bad.
Even
now, because I'm looking at the way the Tapology laid it out, they show them and put it at starting the prelim or starting the main event,
starting the main card.
For me, I get it, but that I feel that's disrespectful to put like a fight. Like I like the Yuri Prochazka and Alexander Rakic fight.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be higher up than like that belt fight.
But I just wonder, like, but wouldn't that not be kind of cool to be like, let's say it was okay. I know that sounds weird, like okay, quote unquote, the prelims.
Yeah.
But it would air at a more suitable time in China. You know what I mean? And so then it's like, yeah, we've never done a card like this where we have a title fight on the prelims, on the early prelims, and then we have a title fight on the prelims, and then we have 2 title fights on the main card instead of trying to do like 4 or 5. Now, I don't know if that's what they're thinking, but
it's 8:18 in the morning right now in China.
Right.
So
this is right about the time you normally.
This would be
3:30 would be the first fight normally.
I was going to say we just started the prelims.
Yep.
So even if it was the first card of the main event or whatever, we're still looking at another 4 or 5 hours. That puts it in 9, 10, 11, 12 noon or about 2 o'clock or so. That's a nice prime early time for that. That's not bad for China.
See, like,
because if you try to put it on at 8 in the morning, they're gonna shit. They're gonna be like, you can't give us.
What if you do this? What if you did? All right, now again, this is complete fantasy, but I'm sitting here thinking like, so what if you do this? Early prelims, close with Zhang Weili versus Yan Xiaonan. So normally that would be a 5:30 p.m. fight here, right?
Yeah.
So over there that would be like 9:30 in the morning, right? The All China fight airs at 9:30 in the morning in China. That's a suitable time, right? Then you add Leon versus Bilal, but that closes the prelims. So that fight airs at a more suitable time in the UK instead of them having to stay up until 4 in the morning. Like at that point, it would probably air at like midnight or 1 o'clock in London time. So then the UK it would air, and then you close the night with the BMF title fight, Justin Gaethje, Max Holloway, and Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler.
It's a pretty stellar card.
That would be dope, right? And now around the world, it's airing in more appropriate times, and I think you make a lot of people happy. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
That's how I would do it. It may sound crazy, but I think that's how I would do it.
It'd be pretty good. And people crapping on well, I think it's just the people that just hate women's MMA. Like people coming out were against that the Yan fight and Weili fight. It's just ridiculous. I mean, like they're like, oh, I can't believe that card should be on 300. That should be on like on a different event somewhere or whatever. I'm like, that's the perfect fight to put on that fight. That fight is going to be so incredible. Like, have you never watched these two ladies fight? Like, they literally beat the shit out of their opponents. Like, it's going to be...
And they used to train together. They started together, so there's a little history between the two.
I mean, the pride of the country. I mean, neither one of them is going to take a back step. I mean, it's going to be an incredible fight. I mean, I think it's going to be probably better than some of the other fights on the main card, to be honest.
I agree.
So, yeah, I just... So tired. People are just shitting on the card, and I just feel like... And I think it's just because... Yeah, maybe they're just literally diehard homers for, like, say, if it's a Conor or something. Or maybe already, some of them I just feel like I don't know if Conor will fix it because I think they just were thinking that Dana set it up so high. He set the bar, the expectations for the bar to be so high that nothing would fix it.
Well, that's what I feel like they're thinking, and like I said, almost like fantasy matchmaking. Like this is some, like, weird New Year's Eve show where, like, Brock is back and Ronda's back. Fedor, they finally signed Fedor. You know what I mean?
How many memes did you see coming out of that? Well, maybe that's because they were talking about boxing or something. I've seen like more Fedor stuff than anything.
Hongman Choi is here, and Jose Canseco is back.
Remember what happened when Bellator? Well, granted, PFL's pacing kind of gets a little bit weird, but remember when they put on like 5 or 6 title fights on a main card? How long and dragged out? It was ridiculous.
So long.
So I mean, like, I think what's the most the UFC's ever done? 3?
3.
Like, when we start, if you get above that, like, as much as people want it, like, understand how much that stretches out that show.
Slows the show down.
It's ridiculous, you know? So, getting a Conor one, even if, say if they get the Leon Edwards, Bilal Muhammad on there, so there's 3 fights. If you count the BMF as a title fight, that's 3 title fights. If you add the Conor, that's 4 title fights. It's going to be a long night just with that. And I mean, I still feel like they're going to add on this card. And if they don't get Conor on it, I mean, are people going to be happy if they do get the Bilal? I mean,
man, I love Leon and I love Bilal, both of them, man. I think they're stand-up dudes. I think they're great fighters, and I'm excited for that fight.
Yeah.
I don't think
people are going to shit on it as being the main event.
That headlines UFC 300.
It's so shitty.
People not going to be
is it just because that doesn't reach this threshold? I just wish Dana was like, we're gonna have a great show, you know, or something. Maybe he didn't set the bar that high. Maybe because it's us, we see the big rounded number, 100. I mean, I'm sure the 100 and 200 shows were great. I mean, I could pull it up, and I'm sure they'd be whatever. Looking at the card now is a solid card.
It's an amazing card.
It's a really good card. I mean, I just. You know, maybe we put too much value on these big numbers that they have to be these end-all, be-all shows, you know. It's unfortunate that the UFC puts on way too many damn events that guys are booked or recovering from injuries, recovering from whatever, that they can't give us these, you know, blockbuster shows on all these major event ones because due to too many damn events, just the cycle's rough. I mean, I think they try to do a decent enough job to.
But less shows means less opportunities for people to fight, less opportunity. You know what I mean? Which I mean, that's with Bellator, you know, cutting a lot of fighters because they're whittling down their roster and only doing 8 events. I mean, it's hard out there right now with one championship, you know, really doing more submission grappling, Muay Thai, and kickboxing and MMA. There's not a lot of high-level spots right now, man. The number of open. So I know when people talk about oversaturation and there's too much UFC, think about what you're saying. If you're arguing about fighter pay all the time and you're saying it needs to be better, then you want shows every week. You want 2 shows a week. You want 3 shows a week because you want these people to have as many opportunities to fight as possible, so that there's as many slots as possible. Because it's just with less fights, there's less opportunities.
Do you think they started going to multiple title fights, just not so much to make this particular card stand out from other cards, but also just in terms of the reps, the availabilities of events to put them on? That if they only put one title fight on a pay-per-view, would they have enough pay-per-views to get to them all? Like, they wouldn't, right?
They wouldn't. No, you need to do 2. And I think the other thing about doing 2 is that you got yourself a backup if you lose a title fight.
True.
You know what I mean? Then you at least still have a title fight. You don't end up with a pay-per-view without a title fight.
Yeah, because I remember at one point it just felt like they backed themselves in a corner because they started putting so many title fights on a pay-per-view, and it was just like, what are you going to do when you don't have one? And then we felt like they were starting to, give us these interim title fights and all these like little other things just to be like, see, we still got a title fight on there. But now the BMF, that's a title fight now.
Title fight.
So it's like,
that's a pay-per-view.
Okay. It's interesting. But yeah, I mean, 298, 299, 300 are looking up to be some really, really good cards. But it'd be interesting. But yeah, I just wanted to know what your take was, because I felt like a lot of people were just giving 300 a lot of grief that but maybe it was warranted because Dana set the bar so high and was talking so highly about it that once it started playing out, people were like, okay, you promised us the stars and you gave us the moon.
Yeah, right. It's not enough.
You were out there.
Yeah.
But not quite out there.
I like it. I think people were asking too much. And again, there's still time to pull a rabbit out of a hat, so we'll see. I mean, DDP Izzy would be a great one as well, and
that would be.
We'll see. We'll see what they come up with.
And the timeline works.
All right, Saturday's event, like I said, Roman Dolidze and Nasruddin Imavov. Big fight in the middleweight division. Nasruddin Imavov, I was actually, surprised to see. He's a slight favorite according to the odds makers. I think you said you were kind of having some second thoughts as well. That you
I
went
switched
with
my
Nasruddin
vote
first.
because of talking to you guys. But yeah, I was going Nasruddin at first. I mean, his size. I mean, I was looking back at some of his past fights. He's huge.
He's huge.
Both of them are huge. But yeah, Imavov's a big boy. They're both big guys. I just liked what Dolidze was sort of his mindset today. I thought it was just
really good.
Came off really, really good.
Yeah.
So I switched my vote. I switched my vote because I said he seemed very, very focused, and I know he's got babies to take care of. So I was like, he's gonna go out there and really try. He's got some babies to take care of.
Look at you, just throwing it out there. Renato Moicano is a slight favorite to Drew Dober. Like I said, I think this is going to be a spectacular fight.
Be a good one.
I thought these two guys were great at media day today. Yeah. Drew Dober is I don't know how you can't be like how you're not a Drew Dober fan. Like the dude is well spoken, super nice, just polite, energetic. He's like a Sage Northcutt-esque, maybe not all the way that way,
but with the fighting skills.
But with the knockout record in the UFC's lightweight division, he's the real. Yeah. He's exciting, right? I mean, he's the real deal. So I don't know how you don't like Drew Dober. And man, Renato Moicano, good Lord, he sat there today, and I loved what he was talking about. If you didn't get a chance to watch his media day, go check it out. He's talking about how like. He's starting to relate to the public now more, and how he's using his English skills, and now he's growing up in the whole game and understanding the business aspect of everything, and talked about how that actually made the entire fighting process more free for him because he used to realize it used to be like life or death if you win.
That's
or not.
Crazy,
and then he's like, now I realize it's just a business and whatever. So I don't know. I thought both these guys were great.
Yeah, I did, and it's it's funny because I did pick Dober in this one. But and that's no slight for Moicano because I think Moicano is just a badass. I think part of it's just because my affinity for what Dober is bringing.
Oh yeah,
and he comes out there, what you're going to get from him. I love the way he's been talking about his family. I mean, you're talking about a guy that talks highly of his wife and his kid. He was giving his wife all this great praise today, and I was like, how can you not like the guy? But Moicano, man, he's like Moicano time, like version 2.0, man. He's coming at it so differently than what I remember when we first saw him, and his mindset is just incredibly. It's so focused, but I love everything that he's saying, and he's like, what you're going to get when it comes to his fight. Like the dude just brings it, man. But man, I love his mindset.
I thought he went from money Moicano to motivational Moicano today, bro. You know,
I know. I was certainly motivated to see that fight afterwards,
Yep.
man. And I liked too. They both were very respectful of each other. I mean, I love the fact that you can have two guys that are fighting super high level there. Are going to go out there and try to smash the shit out of the other one,
Yep.
but have a lot of respect for each other. It was just healthy, good banter, giving respect to each other, and you know what you're going to get. Like neither one of these guys needs to hate their opponent to go out there and bring the best out of them.
No, that's going to be fireworks.
I think it's a killer co-main event.
It's going to be a banger, and it is, does have an impact in the rankings as well.
Yep.
Randy Brown versus Muslim Salikov. These guys were great as well. Randy Brown believes this fight better have an impact in the rankings as well. He's like, hey, man, I need to be fighting ranked opponents. When I win here, I will. Randy, same thing, had a lot of praise from Muslim Salikov. Said, I like his style. I know some people may not know him that well, but I've been watching him forever. I love his style, and I think this is going to be a lot of fun, and I tend to agree with him. I think the top of this card is going to be fireworks. I'm a little Viviane Araújo and Natalia Silva, they were great as well. Again, both using translators today. I'll take that. Natalia Silva was speaking in English, though, but she was getting the questions translated. But she was speaking in English. So,
and she did a good job.
And she did a very good job at it. So good to see her doing that. Viviane Araújo, respectful as always, but she had a couple setbacks, but she reminds people, hey, she's still up at the top of the division. So we'll see how that fight plays out. The one that got me going that I wasn't expecting to be going on, Molly McCann and Diana Belbita, both of them.
Yeah.
Interesting in their ways, right? I mean, obviously, I think most MMA fans are fans of Diana Belbita. I think most are like to follow her career, but she was great. She was super well spoken, but it was interesting, right? Because she said, and she had posted that like I kind of needed a break, and now I'm back. And then today she said I thought I was done, and then they reached out to me with this fight, and it was a rematch. So I was like, hell yeah, I want that rematch. And I said, yeah, let's go. She's like, but before that, I kind of thought I was done fighting. And then we were like, well, okay, but now you're back all the way. And she's like, no, I don't know. I don't know. We'll see after this. I might be done. There's other things I can do in my life. There's other things I can do in my career. And so maybe I'm not. But she was saying, this is going to be a phenomenal fight. We both love to go stand and trade. We're going to throw down. But it was just interesting to hear her say, I'm not sure I want to keep doing this. Meanwhile, Molly McCann, the exact opposite, right? Where she's and it was actually kind of funny because Belbita was one of the first people we talked to, and she talked about Molly, and she said, I know this is going to be a tough fight because I think Molly has grown tired of trying to just be a star, and now she's focused on really being a fighter, right? And then Molly was one of the last people we saw.
Yep.
And she kind of came in and said exactly that.
100%.
She's like, I don't, this was great, but, and I love what she said, I was fighting for the fans, and I'm trying to get this rah, and let's go. She's like, no, I'm fighting for me now.
Yep.
This is my dream, and I've had some setbacks, and I know why it was, and it was because I was in the wrong division, and I've made the sacrifices to be in the right division. I'm going to do it now. So, a different Molly McCann than we've ever seen before in there today.
I like this.
But I liked it. I liked it too, right?
Yeah.
I liked
the old boisterous, crazy Molly that you would see usually when she'd do the rounds with Patty. But
Patty.
This one was much more mellowed out, reserved. Granted, she was cutting weight and wasn't happy about how she had 200 carbs a day or whatever, which I just did a quick search earlier. I was like, how much do you need to, carbs should you eat if you're trying to lose weight or whatever? And it said 1.8 grams per pound of body weight or whatever or something. So at 200 grams of carbs, that would be equivalent of 100-pound person.
Right.
So but I thought the way she handled herself, she didn't seem, you could definitely tell she had done some change because she didn't look sunken in, but she looked a lot
She didn't
slimmed
look bad.
out.
She just looked lean.
She looked very, very lean.
She looked like she's done it well.
She was smiling, happy, and I think the alcohol was a big one too. She said she pulled back on the alcohol, and she doesn't think she's going to stop forever, but maybe for the special occasions. But that does a big thing too, cutting back the alcohol. She gave you some props. She's like, I'm doing stuff, and you're doing stuff. She's like, look at you,
She's very nice. Very nice.
But dude, yeah, she came in, and it just felt like, not that I don't want to say mature, because I don't want to say what she was doing before it made her seem immature, just partying, because that was the Molly that I think we first all saw and fell in love with because of that energy. But she had the great energy, would talk all a great game, but then she would go out there and do it in the ring. And then you're like, how can you not love it? This one I loved because it was just more matured. She was focused on a career. She was realizing, like maybe I was playing up to the fans too much, but I realized now it's about me. Like at the end of the day, who needs to be happy, and that's me. Not trying to just worry about what people are going to say and trying to be the clown or whatever. And I thought that growth and just maturity was awesome. And I thought she was just so it felt like before when she had a lot to say, she couldn't get that out because she was too caught up in the moment of being like the class clown or whatever and enjoying it. But like today, I felt like we got to see the other stuff that had been under there, but was being covered up by just that boisterousness, and just being loud and whatever. So I love the mindset. I'm even more excited about the fight just hearing those two.
That one got me more excited.
I'm glad they brought them.
Not that
they weren't
even
supposed to, because that was deep. I think it's the
here's what
feature prelim.
So it's the feature prelim. Yeah, it was the feature prelim. I will say I'm sad because I'm looking at the card here, and my man Chuck Buffalo, Charlie Radke, is on the main card, but we didn't get to speak to him today. And
Urbina's another fun one, too.
Yeah, Urbina's a fun one as well. So that could be an absolute banger. We got Blake Builder from the CFFC on there as a slight underdog as well against Jung Young Lee. Timba Garimbo is back against Pete Rodriguez. Charles Johnson's there. I mean, so I'm telling you, I understand. I think what you said is true, and what I said is true. Like, on the one hand, the break, everybody was enjoying the break. On the other hand, we got these massive cards coming up. And I get it. Delitse would not say a bad word. In fact, he was like kind of chastising other middleweights for talking shit. And he's like, I'm not going to. He's like, I will always say. He's like, I was brought up to mean that words mean something.
Yep.
Think twice about what you say because your otherwise your words do not carry any weight whatsoever if you do not have true meaning behind them. I mean, so and Nasruddin is not obviously foreign language, not a big trash talker. Yeah. So this is not like the big like, oh man, it's so weird, right? Because I know this sounds weird. Like, I wonder almost like if Moicano and Dober were the main event. Like, I wonder if like people would have a different feel about this card. I think once we went through the day and once you look at some of these matchups, I think it's gonna be a fun card. Now, is it UFC 298, 299, or 300? No. Of course it's not. But I think there's some fun matchups, and I think the media day kind of helped me to get a little bit more fired up.
Yeah. I definitely think that Delitse and Imavov is definitely probably the better play between the Moicano and Dober, just in terms of just like the rankings,
immediate title implications,
and stuff. But I definitely would have been a good fight card. Good card even without. If you subtracted the main event, I think the card would still be good.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I did like that. I don't know if you picked it up, like with Molly. Just the last thing about Molly, people always are like, "Oh, I hate the Apex shows. I hate this and that," and then they're like, "Oh, the media never asks these crazy like hateful questions." Or I call them hateful questions when they're like, "Why didn't you find this shitty thing about them and make them cry or do whatever?" Like, you're always throwing softballs. I'm like, bro, we're getting what we need to get, but I'm also like, I don't care if I get like something that. I don't need the fighter to ball and tell me this, or I don't need to make the fighter feel like shit. So I loved when Molly was like, I like this. I like being here. She's like, it feels good to walk into a room with like people I've seen like a ton of times, and it feels safe. It feels like home. Yep. And I was like, in my back of my head, I was like, yeah, fuck all you people that fucking hate the Apex and hate the media tossing softballs. My job is not to make you happy because I make some fighter feel like shit or whatever. The fact that the fighter came in was like, I feel at ease right now. I feel at home. It's good to see your guys' faces, like being with friendly faces. It's not our job to be their friends, and we're not like out there trying to be buddy-buddy with them. Nope. But I appreciate the fact that it's an environment where they know they can come. They have to do the media rounds. But, yes, it should feel like a safe, like comfortable spot where you can talk about shit and not feel like, oh, I'm walking into a war zone. Oh, I don't want to do media day because I know when I walk in this room, they're going to attack me. So I thought it was awesome that she said that. And
how open was she about everything?
Everything.
That's the thing. I think
you don't have to bully it out of people.
Dude. You don't have to be combative. Yes. You can still ask about stuff without being a jackass.
You make them feel comfortable. They will feel comfortable to tell you about their lives and about what's going on in their heads. And she was saying everything. So, yeah, I just thought, I don't know. I don't know if you heard it when she said it, because when she did, I was like, dude, that feels awesome. I'm like, how many fucking times we're in this room and how many events we've done. The hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of events.
You know what's funny is I think both of us like always enjoy this job because it's like the fact that we like neither one of us is the kind of guy that wants to go sit in a cubicle. Yeah. But like we kind of sit in a cubicle
Yeah,
because we do so many days in that room,
it's pretty
and we're
ridiculous.
in the same seat every time.
Yeah.
Like
they now recognize my car. Like probably saw me too when I was pulling in today. Like Joe at the in the booth was just like already
Yeah, they
waving.
don't
I was
even,
like,
like-
bro, you haven't even seen my face yet. I was like, oh, this is getting bad. But I just thought that was nice. You know, I just thought it was like I was like, good. I mean, the last thing I want is like somebody to be like, oh, okay, oh hey, it's that dick. It's that guy that just always trying to get something for his Instagram or whatever. I mean, I'll be the first to say I'm not a journalist. I'm not a reporter. I'm a video producer. I'm a video shooter. I'm a shooter. A videographer is what I call myself. I just happen to do interviews along the way and talk to people, you know. So my goal is to not find some of the most sensational bullshit to send you as much as like maybe an outlet or media people would want. So the fact that somebody was like, you know, hey, it feels good to be able to come here and talk with you guys and not feel like
I like that way.
that I'm you know,
and I think
going to be attacked, you
I
know.
think
So it made me feel good about it. Like, at least the group there.
No,
like,
I agree.
we'll ask the questions if it needs to.
Yes.
But I don't need every day. And we even talked about it, you know, some of the chatter that's happened beforehand when people are like, why don't you ask about the fighter pay? Why don't you this? All those questions have been asked over and over and over again. Do we need to revisit that every event?
time? No.
Do we really? Because then you're going to shit that that's all we ask. You know, at
All
some
I'll
point.
say is if you don't like it, you can take it up with my boss.
Yeah. That's funny.
All right, listen, we are back in the swing of things. It was good. Like I said, first media day in over 2 months, man. That's crazy.
For
It
you.
felt good to be back for me, yes. I will be there. What do you talk? You're skipping next week, man. I don't want to hear about
That's
it.
true. And then I'm skipping
I remember-
Anaheim as well.
That's right. Yeah,
Is
because you got
that the week after
That's
that?
the week after, yeah. Because
Yeah,
you
it's
got,
like a
you
buddy's
got
in town.
the plans before that. I'm actually, as funny as it is, that I'm doing the same thing. I'm actually gonna fly in the next day because I'm not gonna stay down in Anaheim the whole time. So
Yeah.
I'm actually gonna fly back and forth because it's cheaper than
hotel.
than a hotel.
Hotels are expensive.
Yeah, dude. Like so to fly to Santa Ana / John Wayne, like the one that's like by Anaheim.
Yeah.
Frontier and Spirit were like $50 a round trip.
That's nothing.
So rather than pay for a hotel,
That's crazy.
I'm just gonna fly an Uber. So I'm gonna.
It's very different from the Miami trip that's coming up.
Oh, bro, that one's crazy. I'm
That's
doing.
ridiculous. The hotels are ridiculous.
I'm not even doing. So that one's a funny one too. So I mean, obviously we'll talk about this again. But 299, CFFC is in Tampa on that same weekend. So same thing. I'm not gonna do the media day, but I'm gonna fly Thursday, do the press conference, and then fly to Tampa, check into my hotel in Tampa.
So show on Friday,
do the show on Friday,
and then fly back.
and then fly Saturday to Miami, do the show, and then fly back to Vegas. And so I'm not getting a
Wow.
hotel room in Miami either
Wow.
day.
Who's going to be my translator down there? If you're not there, I have to find somebody.
You got to find somebody who knows a
I
little
know.
Spanish.
They don't
Miami's
speak, they don't
funny.
Speak, they don't speak no English down there.
I was
Somebody's
ju-
like, "Is that true?" I was like, "Bro, outside of the dive bar I went to, everywhere else was Spanish. Uber drivers, the restaurants I went to,
I was
like,
just
all
yeah,
Spanish."
I was just down there for that press conference, and my server one night was like none, like zero
Yeah.
English, like just all like
Somebody
they'll
tried-
always speak Spanish first.
Yeah, well, somebody tried to tell me, they're like, "Are you sure they're not just playing hard with you and like they just don't want to speak English?"
No.
I was like, "Bro, no. Like you could see it in their eyes whether or not they're choosing not to speak
Yeah.
English, as opposed
all
to
they got.
like I don't
That's
have
all they
English
got.
in my arsenal." You know,
It's crazy. It's one of the most unique cities in
It's
all the
crazy.
United States, man.
beautiful people, like the food's good, but it's
Oh, I
like,
love it.
boy, you got to speak some
You got to
Spanish
know a little
to get around.
Spanish. You got to know a little Spanish.
bit. Un
Hopefully,
poco.
hopefully you got Danny Segura around there to get
Well, see,
you
I'm
through.
screwed because I ain't keeping him around. I'm just kidding.
Take
I'm
a
just
shot.
kidding, dude.
Shots fired. Shots fired.
I just kid.
All right, we appreciate everybody that listens to us. Like I said, if you can take a second to rate us, review us, leave us feedback, we would certainly appreciate that. If you want to take your game to the next level and support us over at patreon.com/the MMA Roadshow, we would definitely appreciate that. And we really, truly appreciate each and every one of you who already do. You are the greatest people on earth. Glad to be back. Started some media days. Not all of them, but some of them again. I still got other stuff scheduled, but when I can be there,
There's plenty enough events in a row here. I think you'll get some media days. in there.
I'll get some. I'm gonna miss Anaheim and Miami, but you know what? Honestly, like those media days, you don't need me there anyway. There's like 50 reporters today. There were like 5. You know what I mean? So if I can help out with those fight night ones, try to make them a little interesting, I'll do that. So anyway, all that's coming up. Like I said, check out CFFC Match Day this Friday night. If you haven't seen any college wrestling whatsoever, check it out. Your boy will be on the mic. I'm actually pulling double duty, so I will do the pre-production work in the truck that I've been working on, but during the live event, I will switch to the booth and do commentary. So now,
fancy.
How many people that do that, huh? Pre-production on graphics and then step over to play-by-play?
That's the only one I know of.
Let's go. Hopefully I do okay. I've become very, very passionate about college wrestling. I will still not pretend to be half the knowledgeable man that Shane Sparks is, but since he can't be there, I'm honored to get a chance to fill in. So check that out on Fight Pass this Friday night, and then I'll be back for the show on Saturday, and I will see you there, and we'll talk about it afterwards on the and a half episode at patreon.com/StanMMARojo. In the meantime, thanks for listening.